schedule of meetings adopted at the organizational meeting held January 6, 2021. Adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Kenilworth Board of Education has been provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, the local source on December 15, 2020, and January 8, 2021. Copy has been filed with the Kenilworth Borough Clerk. Posted in the board office, the Kenilworth Borough Hall, Brearley and Harding Schools as provided by the Open Public Meetings Act. COVID-19 compliance was updated on December 14th, 2020. This will be an in-person meeting. The meeting location has been moved to the David Brearley Cafeteria. Due to COVID-19 modifications to indoor capacities issued by the state of New Jersey, in-person participation is limited due to social distancing requirements and the size of the meeting room. The Board of Education, therefore, has calculated that 30 members of the public will be able to participate in this meeting. In accordance with the Board of Education Bylaw 0164.6, remote public board meetings during a declared emergency, and an effort to encourage and increase public participation, the meeting will be live streamed, and the public will be able to view live via YouTube live stream. The link will be available at 7:30 p.m. by clicking on the Board of Education tab on the Kenilworth District homepage, then the Kenilworth Board of Education YouTube channel tab, where you will be able to see the live stream icon. If members of the public are unable to attend the meeting in person and do not have internet access to watch the live stream, they will have an opportunity to call in to listen to the meeting. Members of the public requesting this accommodation must request to do so by 3 p.m. prior to the meeting to obtain the call-in information and password codes. Public comment will be accepted as follows: electronically via email to publiccomments@kenilworthschools.com. Those messages must be received by 4:00 p.m. on the night of the board meeting. All emails received by the deadline will be read during the public comment section of the meeting. In person at the meeting venue during the public comment section of the meeting, and finally by calling into the meeting venue at 908-931-9696, extension 2325. During the public comment section of the meeting. For the record, please indicate your name and address on all comment requests in accordance with the Board of Education Bylaw 0155.1. Board member participation at a board meeting using an electronic device. Board members will have an opportunity, if needed, to participate via Zoom meeting platform. This evening, we have several board members taking advantage of that opportunity.
Thank you. Please rise and join us in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Ganello, can we please have a roll call?
Minor?
Here.
Braun?
Here.
David?
Here.
Drogan?
Here.
Haberther?
Here.
Jankowicz?
Here.
Ladati?
Here.
Panici?
Here.
Zimmerman? Nancy? She's here?
Here.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All members are present.
Thank you, Mr. Ganella. Can we please have a receiving of the minutes? Can we please have a motion to accept the minutes from January?
So moved.
4th?
So moved.
Can we please have a second? Thank you. Motion accepted by Mr. Ladati, seconded by Mrs. Braun. All those in favor of receiving the minutes, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Ganella, do we have any correspondence this evening?
We do not have any public correspondence for this month.
Can we please have a motion to accept the monthly correspondence?
Motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion by Mr. Biner, seconded by Mrs. Braun. All those in favor of accepting public correspondence, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And now we'll have Mr. Arlington for Superintendent's report and presentations. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. I'm looking forward to spending just a few minutes tonight sharing a mid-year status update on our district goals. I'll do that by focusing in particular on two goals that the pandemic has spotlighted. Maybe. Do you mind advancing that? There we go. Thank you. To start, the intent of our goals is to achieve clarity and alignment within our school community. While true alignment of our efforts, vision, and belief systems can't be achieved by goals alone, they are vehicles through which we rally around key priorities. I think it's working now. Thank you. So why goals? Their purpose is to unify our efforts by reminding us of what matters most. They aim to create accountability in a transparent way to help us accelerate student achievement. Furthermore, our goals remind us of the interconnectedness of our work. That is, our strategic plan informs our district goals, which inform our building goals, which inform the goals of individual stakeholders. When this happens, we all move in sync and in the same direction. The interconnectedness of our work is further illustrated here. Our goals are rooted in the efforts of 1, supporting future-ready teaching, learning, and innovation, enhancing intervention and support programs, increasing opportunities for job-embedded professional learning, continuing to run a safe, efficient, and effective school district, and strengthening our relationships with stakeholders through increased communication. Our building goals, which I'll talk about in a bit, are offshoots of our district goals. The two categories of goals are meant to work in tandem with each other by supporting our district goals in symbiotic ways. To ensure the successful attainment of the goals, as a district, we've created action plans that are specific, measurable, assignable, or attainable, realistic, and time-bound. And at the leadership team level, we've unpacked each goal through the creation of action plans. The action plans align metrics to each of the goals as a way of enhancing accountability. They identify the deliverables of each goal by employing a model in which a group of people are responsible. And so while the groups will only be achieved through a collaborative mindset, there has to be individuals directly responsible for shepherding the work, and the action plans underscore that. I want to give an example to show that it's impossible to treat the goals as mutually exclusive. That is, if I'm sharing our growth and innovation, I could easily share with you how professional learning supports that. Or when we talk about how we've enhanced intervention services, I can share with you how we've made those enhancements with an eye on safety, efficiency, and efficacy. But while all 5 of our goals are increasingly important in this pandemic environment, there are 2 that have had bright spotlights shown on them as a result of this unusual school year. Since teaching and learning look different from any other year, our district's focus on what future-ready school looks like, along with innovation, is certainly getting center stage this year. As you can see here, we've ramped up the number of devices, the applications to use on those devices, and the support for their use. We haven't lost the momentum we built last year on advancing our STEM progress, and we're continuing that this year. Finally, given that our tech practices have accelerated at lightning speed this year, we're working towards putting a more formal construct around technology innovation and planning, which will serve as a blueprint for us in subsequent years and will help us to identify priorities in terms of budgeting, professional learning, and educational programming. Another goal that has a new bent for us as a result of the pandemic is our communication goal. We've increased the frequency of our communication via superintendent and principal updates as we actively work to strike a balance between sharing informational and safety news with sharing curriculum and instruction efforts that are focused on our support of enhanced achievement. We've had several unique updates, most notably some focused on the resources coming out of the Student Personnel Services Department. We've increased our parent support through technology help sessions with our technology facilitator and trainings on mental health and social emotional learning with our Care Plus clinicians. We've accelerated our professional writing efforts and have had an increase in celebratory information published in NJ.com and other news outlets. And finally, this week, we'll be sending information out about a town hall meeting to encourage additional venues for two-way communication. As I mentioned earlier, our school goals work to support our district goals in targeted ways. Harding's goals around technology use, social emotional learning frameworks, and communication tightly align to some of the corresponding district goals I just shared, as do Brearley's goals focused on increasing support for college-bound seniors, culture and spirit, and communication. Building principals will be sharing real-time updates of these goals in the upcoming months. Our next steps are identified here. We'll continue to widely communicate our goals because the more people who know what they are and believe in them, the more agency people will have over the work and the greater the likelihood that our students will benefit from them. We'll engage in close progress monitoring and continue to share updates. In advance of those updates, President Panici, I am to take questions now.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Arlington at this time? No? Okay. Sure.
Just unrelated to the presentation, but specific to the agenda, the HIB, suspension, and enrollment report are all included in your folder. If you're participating via Zoom, we sent an email with that information in it for you. You'll be voting later on in the meeting on December's HIB report, so I'm happy to take questions.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Arlington?
Yeah, I do. Kyle, do we have any, are we picking up like cyberbullying or anything like that on these charts, or how are we doing that, or is that occurring and we're not picking it up, or what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah.
With everybody being online.
Sure. So we had matters of cyberbullying, a couple last year, and I believe the one case that occurred at Brearley this year that was investigated was a result of cyberbullying. We haven't seen any, though, Mr. Ladati, in the past couple of weeks or months.
That's great. Good to hear. Thanks.
I have a question. I'm hearing this from other schools where the children are making fun of the teachers and not paying attention. Are we having a problem with that or no?
I've not heard of making fun of teachers. District, luckily, engagement, though, yes. I have the opportunity to meet with a small council of teachers pretty regularly, and it's definitely a concern at the middle and high school levels, like getting kids to put their camera on themselves and not the ceiling, for example. Our teachers are really engaged in yeoman's efforts to use the chat features to engage students and use their learning management systems like Google Classroom, but it is certainly a struggle. I recognize that, and I applaud our teachers for continuing to try to provide meaningful instruction despite the challenges of teaching kids at home.
Thank you.
Are you, Kyle, are you finding that that's more of a, like a level, or the engagement of the students?
I'm sure. So as it's being reported to me, the issue at the middle and high school levels, students not taking the directive to make sure the camera is turned on and facing them seriously. That's broad brushing, right? But I have heard that several times from teachers that is a challenge. Mostly in grades 7 through 12. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions at this time?
Just a note on two other resolutions. Regarding Resolution 12, given its School Board's Recognition Month, I'd like to thank the Board of Education for your support of our district and acknowledge publicly the many volunteer hours you expend each month in committee meetings and public meetings to do the business of running a school district and helping to ensure our district is run well, so thank you. And then finally, regarding Resolution number 8, I thank you to Marianne Finestrella for her 13 years of service to our school district in the capacity of classroom aide Congratulations on your retirement. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Congratulations to the retiree, and thank you to my co-members for your service. Now we will move to report of committees, review of resolutions, and board discussion. So first up is Mr. Ladati, Finance and Facilities.
Yeah. Hi, good evening, everyone. I couldn't be there today, just feeling a bit under the weather, so I apologize for not being in person. But going over the resolutions, I obviously just heard Mr. Arlington's report. That's resolution number 1. 2 and 3 are the bill list and the financial reports. They are in order. I reviewed all of them. They seemed there was no outliers. No line item transfers over our $5,000 cap. Number 6 is for transportation, and those are just in case the, basically are in case the MUJC cannot, unable to provide services for athletic events. So we'll use those 2 bus lines. And number 7 is to get some work done, architectural services associated with the masonry facade at Harding and correction of the water infiltration and ventilation design at Harding basement, which is basically on the 1923 addition. That's what I have for resolutions. That's for my report. The audit deadline again has again been extended due to certain state of NJ calculations that were distributed late. The business administrator has submitted our report to the Department of Education. The fiscal year 22 phase 1 budgets have been submitted on January 7th. The administration will review will begin, and the committee will start meeting in February to tackle this and other budget challenges. Mr. Ganella and Mr. Vanderzees have been working with the architects to update the long-range facility plans. Incorporated into the plan will be both maintenance items, capital improvements to the facilities, and again, the committee will be reviewing those projects as well. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Any questions or concerns for Mr. Ladati? Okay,
No,
hearing
thank you.
none, we'll move on to Personnel and Management. Mr. Haberther?
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
All right,
thank you.
thank you. We have 11 resolutions tonight. Number 8, as mentioned by Superintendent Arlington, accepts the resignation of a Bureau of the Aide, Marianne Finestrella. Resolution number 9 is the approval of a child study team member. Number 10 is the approval of a maternity leave absence adjustment. Number 11 is another maternity leave. Number 12, also mentioned by Superintendent Arlington, is the NJSBA declaring that January is School Board Recognition Month and recognizes the services of local board members, and also asks the citizens of New Jersey and the local towns to work with board members to advance children's education. Number 13 is the approval of ACE staff, and that's Alternative Classroom Experience staff. Number 14 approves evaluation rubrics. Number 15 approves athletic stipends for the winter season. Number 16 approves home instruction. Number 17 approves state of assurance regarding paraprofessional staff. And number 18 is the approval of substitute staff. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions or concerns for Mr. Haberther? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to Curriculum and Instruction. Mr. Jankowicz.
So resolution 19 is the curriculum adoption for Art and Beyond the Classroom. 20, we have it's the HIB report from November 2020. So not much here. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions or concerns for Mr. Jankowicz? Okay, hearing none, can we please move on to policy, Mrs. Braun?
Yep, we have 2 resolutions. Resolution 21, which is for a first reading of the policy and regulation 5330.0 6.05 seizure action plan, which states that it's a new statute that requires the parents of a student with epilepsy or a seizure disorder to submit the student's seizure action plan on an annual basis to the school nurse. Then we also have resolution number 22. It's a revision to adopt policy 0152 regarding election of board officers.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or concerns for Mrs. Braun? Okay, so we will move on to old business. I'd like to just reference the TAB committee. Mr. Arlington and I reviewed the parameters that the board resolved in 2015, and board participation is outlined to be 2 Board of Ed members, and we adjusted the number of members after the reorganization meeting on January 4th. Does anyone else have anything under old business they'd like to discuss or add? Please. Okay, anything under new business?
Didn't they opened up school today? How did that go?
Can you, or?
Yeah, I can.
I was saying to the in-person board members, I got to greet some kids at Harding today, and there was a lot of excitement and energy about their return to school. I had a meeting with some Harding teachers after school, and they said some of their morning meeting this morning was about, like, why are you excited to be back? And many of the students talked about social interaction and just being happy to see each other. When I connected with Principal Davies this morning, there were similar sentiments, although we're hoping to get even more students back in, as we're still seeing a pretty significant amount of in-person students just opting kind of on a daily basis for virtual instruction. So we're beginning to think about ways to combat that, but there's a lot of moving pieces there. But all in all, it was a great day back. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah,
I have,
Kyle,
go ahead. Go ahead.
thanks. Thank you. Kyle, just a real quick question. I know there's no crystal ball, but as far as opening up today, and I know my daughter is very excited about being back in the school, as I'm sure, like you said, most of the other students were, but is there any kind of speculation on what we think the longevity of this version of, or this sort of, this period of time is going to be before we may have to consider doing it all remote again? There's, is there any kind of insight into that?
All I could say, Mr. Haberther, is that I have a weekly call on Thursdays at 1:30 with the Kenilworth Health Office, and Mr. Gappis reviews not only the state level data, but the county data too. So right now it's trending better, both in our county and in Kenilworth. So for example, he reported last Thursday that Kenilworth transitioned from the red to the orange, and there were even, I think he said 4 or 5 other municipalities in Union County that were in the yellow. So he saw a positive trend. If that continues, I really can't say. But on behalf of, I think, lots of teachers, we're hoping for some consistency moving forward now that the new year is here.
Great. Well, thank you for all your hard work on this. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.
So I just had a general question. I've gotten, I guess, some parents within the past few months have asked me, because they saw tennis courts being remodeled, if there was any, I guess, if the courts are going to be open anytime soon for public use. I guess tennis is becoming popular now during COVID. So, and I know, I guess in the past, there was some issue between the town versus the school, who's going to monitor it, and if they're going to really be used for tennis or not. But have we looked into, or can we look into actually opening the courts in town, in our, in the parking lot? I know the Mario got rid of the courts, so I don't think we have any courts in town. what would be the process to explore something like that?
Well, we've always, tennis courts are used by our gym classes currently. Maybe not in January, but when the weather gets better, it is used. We feel that anything outside of the school day has to be regulated by the municipality, whether it be the rec department or someone. We need to protect our assets. They are notoriously abused when they're left open, unfortunately, especially with no lighting out there. So it's not very easy for the police to see at long distances if students or children are on there, whether they're be skateboarding, playing hockey, all those type of bad things that happen on tennis courts. So our concern is our asset, our facilities.
Right.
That being said, we've always encouraged the rec department, if they could come up with a plan. We've even given some suggestions over the past years, where someone goes to the rec department during the day, leaves their keys or a driver's license to pick up the key, and they're responsible for locking it, and hopefully they lock it. Obviously they're using it, and hopefully they understand the gravitas behind why we're requesting them to leave their driver's license or their keys or something to that effect to get the keys.
Do you know what Roselle Park, how they manage it? And I believe they have courts, and I don't know if the town locks them up.
Every town is different. I mean, I know a lot of Roselle Park's lands were obtained through Green Acres, which has different constraints on it than ours would, because ours is publicly owned, but it's different jurisdictions, I guess, restrictions or something to that effect. We can't restrict our people who use it. Is it open space? What was that term? Blue Acres or Green Acres? Green Acres lands, I think it was called. You can't restrict, but we can. I mean, there are ways to do it, Mr. Jankowicz. I just think that, we don't have the staff here after hours. If it was during hours, it'd be one thing, but no one really wants to use it at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday.
Right.
So it's more of the weekends and at night when it gets nicer. So we don't have the staff to monitor it, and it's not a good idea for us to leave those open 24 hours, which is one of the reasons maybe why they closed the Mario down, because it got into in a state of disrepair.
Right. Okay. Maybe I could find out more from rec and see if they.
Yeah, I think somebody from the rec is probably there and sit there. If they want to open it up for 2 hours a night or even longer, then somebody from the rec department or the town has to sit up there and monitor it with the keys and lock it back up at the end of the night. It's the only way it's not going to get destroyed. We're spending too much money there.
Yeah, it's a shame too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's come to that. But, okay, I get it.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Anyone else, any questions? Okay, is there a motion to open the meeting to the public?
Make a motion to open to the public?
Thank you. Motion made by Mrs. Braun. Is there a second? Second made by Mr. Biner. All those in favor of opening the meeting to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, hello. Public comment will now be accepted. The Board of Education sets the limit to speak at the Board of Education to 5 minutes per person, unless prior permission has been granted by the Board of Education to extend time pursuant to Board of Education Bylaw 0167. Public comments are being accepted by the following means: by calling into the board meeting at 908-931-9696, extension 2325. That's 908-931-9696, extension 2325. In person at this meeting venue. There are currently no members of the public present. And finally, the third means is electronically via email to public comments at Kenilworth schools. Messages received prior to 4:00 p.m. Would have been read this evening. We did not receive any, however. So the only means that we have would be if someone does call in this evening. So there is a little bit of a YouTube lag time, so we will give it a minute and see if anyone does call in.
some music in the background.
Jeopardy music, right? Yeah. I could sing.
Okay.
You wouldn't like it, but I could sing. Okay, that's, I think, enough time. So, meeting motion to close.
Okay. Meeting is there a motion to close the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Thank you. I didn't hear who that was.
Second.
Greg,
Oh, okay. Motion made by Mr. David, seconded by
Mr. Habecker?
Mr. Haberthorne. Sorry, it was hard to hear you.
Yep.
Mr. Canella, are we prepared to vote on resolutions?
Yes, we are. Okay, the first set of resolutions are finance and facilities, resolutions 1 through 7.
So I like to make a motion to the floor that resolutions 1 through 7 for the facilities and finance area be this time.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, thank you. For resolutions 1 through 7 on the agenda, are there any that need to be voted on separately? Okay, hearing none. 1 through 7. Mr. Biner?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes?
David?
Yes.
Drogan?
Yes.
Jankowicz?
Oh, wait a minute.
I'm sorry, who did I say Haberthor?
You did not, but I say yes.
Haberthor. Jankowicz?
Yes.
Ladati?
Yes.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Panici?
Yes.
Motion's carry unanimously. Hold on. Flatten up here. Okay, this is for personnel and management resolutions 8 through 18 on the agenda. Mr. Haberthor?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to move resolutions 8 through 18 for personnel to be voted on.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Haberthor making the motion. Mr. Biner seconded it. Are there any that need to be separated for a vote? No? Hearing none. Mr. Biner?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes?
David?
Yes.
Drogan?
Yes.
Haberthor?
Yes.
Jankowicz?
Yes.
Ladati?
Yes.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Panici?
Yes.
Motion's carry unanimously. So resolution, curriculum and instruction resolutions 19 and 20 on the agenda. Mr. Jankowicz?
Make a motion to move curriculum and instruction resolutions 19 and 20 for voting.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Biner. Made by Mr. Jankowicz, seconded by Mr. Biner. Resolutions 19 and 20, are there any that need to be voted on separately? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Biner?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes?
David?
Yes.
Drogan?
Yes.
Haberthor?
Yes.
Jankowicz?
Yes.
Ladati?
Yes.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Panici?
Yes.
Motion's carry unanimously. And finally, resolutions, policy resolutions number 21 and 22 on the agenda. Mrs. Braun?
I'd like to make a motion to move policy resolutions 21 and 22 for voting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Biner. Motion was made by Mrs. Braun, seconded by Mr. Biner. Are there any resolutions that need to be separated for voting on? No? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Biner?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes?
David?
Yes.
Drogan?
Yes.
Haberthor?
Yes.
Jankowicz?
Yes.
Ladati?
Yes.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Panici?
Yes.
Motion's carry unanimously.
Thank you. Do we have to go into closed session? Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay, is there a motion to go into closed session?
Make a motion to go in closed.
Okay, second?
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Braun, seconded by Mr. Biner.
Okay. Board of Education resolve that the Board of Education meet in private session, which the public shall be excluded, to discuss the topic of KEA negotiations and the Winfield send-receive agreement. In addition to KEA negotiations, the board will also be discussing PSA negotiations, which private discussion is being held pursuant to Section 7B of the Open Public Meetings Act. The matters under discussion will be disclosed to the public as soon as final decisions are made and voted upon. The Board of Education is going into closed executive session to discuss the above matters, but will not be taking any further action this evening. The meeting will adjourn at the end of the executive session. Therefore, this will conclude the live YouTube portion of the meeting. Thank you for your participation this evening, and the board looks forward to meeting in person when restrictions have been lifted. So the motion was made by Mrs. Braun, seconded by Mr. Biner. Vote on the resolution. All in favor of moving into closed session?
Aye.
Opposed?
My
Okay.
fault.
Yeah, I has it. No, that's okay. Okay, we are officially in closed session. Thank you, and have a good night.
Remember